My name is Elaine Buck, and I am the co-author of If These Stones Could Talk, and also the co-founder of Stoutsburg Cemetery, African American Museum, which we call SAM for short. My relatives date all the way back to the early 1800s in this region.
My name is Beverly Mills, and I am the co-author of If These Stones Could Talk and also co-founder of the Stoutsburg Cemetery African American Museum. My history in this region goes back 4 generations. My 4th great-grandfather was enslaved by a pastor at the Old School Baptist Church. And I have another 4th great-grandfather who was enslaved by a veteran of the Revolutionary War. The uniqueness of the Sourland Mountain region, I don't think many people actually know about the history of why it was so unique, not only because of the landscape and how difficult it was to farm this region because of the composition of the soil and what you had to do to make it manageable. You're talking about a situation where African Americans and white people also went to school together in the very beginning of the 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s. They were worshiping together, whether they were free or enslaved. They would attend the same churches. African Americans, especially the enslaved, would be in the balcony. They would be in chains. And it wasn't until the mid 1800s that the African American community was able to build their own churches so they would be able to worship together.
We, through our research, found that there were not only African Americans in the Sourland Mountains, these were our ancestors that lived in the Sourland Mountains.
The discovery of the 1801 Montgomery Township poll list has been particularly exciting for Elaine and I because it has taken us down a whole nother research path. We didn't really go in that direction when we were doing our research for our book, but now that we have been made aware that that these people might have, these African Americans and these women, but mainly our focus was the African Americans that were on this list that were exercising their right to vote. To us, is absolutely extraordinary, and it's a whole exciting way of looking at the people that lived in the community on the Sourland Mountain.
We also, Beverly, we noticed that some of the people that were on the poll list are buried at our Stoutsburg Cemetery. So that made it even more exciting. So the names on the poll list, we see Ephraim Hagerman's name. Next to his name is the word Negro. And then we did see some other names that Henry Lane and Thomas Blue, they didn't have the word Negro next to them. But we can only believe that they are the Thomas Blue and Henry Lane. Henry helped to purchase the Stoutsburg Cemetery along with Moses Blue and Stacy Stives. And then, of course, Thomas Blue lived in the region and owned property. He's one of the black side of the Blue family, which was not uncommon for people in our community to have the same last names that mirror the white founding families' names.
So when Elaine and I were first contacted, we were given a transcript of the 1801 Montgomery poll list, which in itself was very exciting to read. But as we started to look further, and then we were given a scan of the original copy, the handwritten copy, we noticed on the transcribed copy that there was the name Jude Blue. We were really excited to see the name of Jude Blue, but here we have a mystery. The mystery being that Jude Blue, when her name was recorded, it wasn't written clearly, could be mistaken as Isaac. Jude's story would be so extraordinary because she had formerly been an enslaved woman who was the property of the Blue family, called the Blau originally because they were Dutch in origin, and they came from New York and settled in the area which is now called Blauenburg, which is after their family name. So Judith Blue being the property of the Blue family, and to gain her freedom as her husband had gained his freedom, to be voters, that's an extraordinary story. So that's why we are hoping that that name is Jude Blue. It's really important to note that Black people had the desire to vote in between 1776 and 1807. After that time, they were disenfranchised. But during that short span, we find that the African Americans, some of them whom had been formerly enslaved, wanted to take part in the American dream. It's just that simple. They saw themselves as full citizens. They saw themselves as people who were contributors to the community. And they saw themselves as having every right to exercise those rights.
The people that these African Americans were voting amongst, they were some of the pillars of society. So this was a big deal, I'm sure, for them to be able to vote amongst these people that have really been people that were their slave masters, some of them.